Liz Barraza was brutally murdered on her own drive. Does her husband Sergio have any more knowledge of the event than he's letting on, or even any guilty knowledge? We'll find out in this video from Never a Truer Word. It's the videos where we look at the words that people choose to use and analyse them to see whether we can see deception behind those words or whether there's some truth in those words. We use a lot of processes and analysis tools to look at people's words, and if you want to learn more, upskill yourself in detecting deception, then there's a couple of books available which you can find links to in the description below this video. This video has been suggested by someone in the comments. I'm always up for hearing suggestions of people's words to look at. So if there is anything you'd like to do, then just mention them in the comments down below and we'll look into them and see if we can do that. The message was, I would like to know your opinion of the Barraza case and Sergio's interview. Not a case I had heard of before and not someone I had heard of before, but when I Googled it, there's why someone wants me to have a look at the words. So I found out Elizabeth Barraza was killed on her drive before 7 a.m. one morning in January 2019. It's a horrific crime. It's caught on CCTV cameras and doorbell cameras as well, and it's a horrible, horrible crime. And as far as we know, no suspects with law enforcement, no arrests have been made. And, you know, we're 3.5 years on now at the time of recording this video, and there's been no movement. However, her husband, Sergio, has since remarried, which gets some people, not everyone, but some people saying, oh, is there something going on there? So I've found some of Sergio's words, and we're going to analyse them. Does he have any more knowledge of the crime than he's letting on, or does he even have some guilty knowledge? What can we see in his words? And we're going to look at some markers of guilt. These are things that have been observed in interviews with people who are guilty of a crime, but at the time of the interview, they are pretending that they are innocent. These will include alibi building. Never quite as obvious as, it couldn't have been me, I was 10 miles away at work, but subtly working in things so that we get the impression the crime could not have been theirs. Invoking God is another one. That's when people use God's name, maybe say, I swear on the Bible, or honest to God, I could not do this, or I'm a God-fearing person. People will bring God into it in the feeling that if they do, then they can't be guilty. People won't assume they're guilty if they can bring God into it. Why would you lie in front of God? Speaking ill of the deceased is another one that we see. It's not all the time. You just may notice once or twice someone putting down a dead person. We expect people to be nice about dead people mostly, but guilty people will let slip something that speaks ill of the deceased. Conflicting facts is quite an obvious one. If someone says something and then contradicts it later on in their same words, or maybe even later on in time, then that is something else that would be a marker of guilt. Storytelling, we are going to see stories being told all the time, but what I mean by storytelling is it's almost like a narration for a book. It doesn't quite begin with once upon a time, but you will find and then something, 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 and so something, 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 and it's that kind of storytelling. Also in storytelling, people will explain their thinking, or guilty people tend to explain their thinking at the same time as explaining their actions. So they don't just tell us what they did, they tell us why they did it and what their thinking was for doing it and their reasoning for doing it. They'd like to let us in on those sort of things. Image management is when someone tries to make out that they're maybe a better person than they are. Again, this is just to deflect any thoughts of this person could be guilty, because how can I be guilty? I'm such a nice person. I'm such a caring person. I went the extra mile to do this. A lack of hope the perpetrators will be found. That is because honestly, they know that, or they really hope the perpetrator is not going to be found. And they just know that really there is no perpetrator bar them. And also minimization of the crime. So for example, in this case, it's a horrific murder, but the person who's talking about this with guilty knowledge may not call it a horrific murder. They may call it a crime or this thing or something like that. And I'm not just looking for one of those markers or even a couple of those markers, because we all misspeak at times. We all have different ways of speaking. So I'll say some things in this video that I maybe misspeak or don't phrase particularly well. I'm looking for repetition of some of these markers of guilt, or lots of these markers of guilt covered off across some of the words that we're looking at. Talking of repetition, if we analyze people's words, we can look at the concepts or the words that they repeatedly use. And these are typically things that are very important to the person talking. But why is it important to the person talking? Could be this is just what's important to them. It's what's top of their mind. So it just comes out because they're thinking about it all the time. With a guilty person, it can be that they really want to make sure that you know this thing. So they aren't just going to mention it once or twice. They're going to repeat it a few times so you really get the picture. So the message really lands home. Their deception can work. Okay. Let's have a look at Sergio's words then. This is from a TV feature on the murder. He says, I was holding her hand the entire time. I said, I love you and I'll never forget you. And I just slowly let her go. The one thing that I spotted in this was the repetition of that word I all the time. I'm. So this means, or indicates rather, that it's probably very truthful, and there's no reason to doubt any of this. This is him talking about when Elizabeth died in the hospital. But also, this is him talking about himself. And this is all about him. I'm not saying he's selfish or he's self-centered at all, not that whatsoever. And what I'm doing is, this is about him. It's not about her. This is not anyone involved in any kind of image management. So you think they're a really thoughtful person or a loving person or anything like that. I get some of that from the words, but he's not trying to skew our image of him through these words. He's telling us what was going on with him at the time. Next, from the same piece of TV, he's talking about what he first thought when he heard that Elizabeth had been shot on the drive. He said, I thought it was a robbery and that had gone wrong or something like that. They end up shooting my wife, but then they didn't. There's nothing that was taken. More of the same thing here. It's more of the same vein in that he's talking about himself and he is open to being wrong. He's telling us that he was thinking things and he's been wrong about them. And he's entirely open to the fact that he can be wrong about something. And I thought that was really interesting that, again, no image management. He's not trying to say that he's a certain person or a sure person. He's saying, I was wrong about something. Next, he talks about what he saw in the video. He says, the way the person moves and stuff, I believe it's a woman, but it's hard to tell, honestly. The quality of the video, it's hard to see details and stuff. So it could be someone dressed up, but it looks like it could be a female from the long hair, the way they move and stuff. I'm not really sure. It's just what I think it could be, you know? This is more of the same thing. He believes something or thinks something, but he's entirely open to being wrong again. Certainly get no sense that there's any fixed theories that he's trying to push us towards. He's certainly not trying to cover up for himself at all. He does say what he thinks and why he thinks it, but also, I could be wrong. I'm not really sure. The big thing I get here is he doesn't know. He believes, but he doesn't know, and he's quite happy to say that he doesn't know. But if you look at this, he's actually opening up possibilities. He's not closing down possibilities. So he's not trying to direct our thought one way or the other. He's saying, I believe it's a woman, but it could be anyone. I talked about repetition earlier, and I can see that the word stuff is repeated there. The way the person moves and stuff, the details and stuff, the way they move and stuff. What does stuff tell us? What is stuff? Well, there's two reasons I think that stuff could be being used here. Stuff could be a sort of code for, I don't have anything else to say, but by adding and stuff, it makes it sound like I have more to say, and therefore there is more reason for me to think this. And this is, I think, is entirely possible. I think almost his gut instinct on watching the video says it was a woman, and he can only articulate the way the person moves makes him think it's a woman, and stuff probably covers a bit of that gut instinct. He doesn't really have anything else to say on it, but by saying and stuff makes it feel a bit more credible than just I've got one reason for thinking it's a woman. And I think that's entirely possible that's why he's used stuff. However, let's be open-minded on this. It could be that by and stuff, he has reasons why he believes it's a woman who killed his wife, but he doesn't want to articulate that for some reason, or he doesn't want to say that out loud, or express that. So he minimizes it and labels it stuff, the way the person moves and stuff, as in other things, but I'm not going to say what they are. It could be either. I'm open to both of them. It really could be the first reason that he's just trying to make it sound like he has more reasons, But it could be that he has other reasons, maybe not actual visual ones from the video, but knowing about Lizzie's life or his life or something, why he knows it's a woman, but he's minimizing them. Also wonder if why he said it could be someone dressed up and not a man dressed up. Is that just another indication that he really thinks it's a woman? Don't know. But there is just some markers in there that maybe there are some other reasons he thinks it's a woman other than the way the person moves and also the long hair. The last thing that's in this video from Sergio is he says, that's the only reason I'm here, because we just don't know. We don't know and I can't understand it. So I just want somebody to come help us. The we's we see there, the we just don't know, we don't know, help us. I believe that's him and Lizzie's family who I think they're quite close and working together on campaigns to try and find out who killed her. But again, I'm spotting repeated here, I don't know. And I don't believe, it doesn't feel like this is the I don't know and I'm telling you I don't know so that you really believe I don't know. I think it comes out here that he doesn't know. And even more, he doesn't even say what it is that he doesn't know. And he says, I can't understand it. I think the crime that happened, the murder of his wife, just does not make any sense to him whatsoever. And that's why there's this repetition of, I don't know, I can't understand it. I don't know. I think this is what's top of his mind. If you like these videos, if you hit the subscribe button, then you should get notifications every time there's a new video out. But the way YouTube works, you may just have to keep checking anyway. Press the like button. That will help more people find videos like this. And comment if you have any comments on the words that we're looking at, or there's anything that you'd like us to have a look at as well, then get busy in the comments down below. And we may well do one of those at some point in the future. Let's go on with Sergio's words, and this is another piece of TV that he did shortly after her murder. He said, life just doesn't make any sense at times, and this is one of those times. It's just something that really goes against nature. But to know that there's video evidence of somebody actually committing this act and the person is still out there, it's just mind-boggling to me. In this day and age, I would have assumed they would be being served justice for what they did to her because she was just so innocent. I can see this repeated thing again. Life just doesn't make sense. I know there's video evidence, but it's mind-boggling that this person hasn't been caught. So again, I'm picking up really strongly that he doesn't know things, that he doesn't understand things, that things don't make sense. He's slightly confused by everything that's happening. Couple of little things to mention though. Committing this act is downplaying the murder. And at the very end, she was just so innocent. Now, how do I get to this? Let me think. It was a horrible murder. And I get it's really horrible. Elizabeth, from everything I've read about her, seemed like a nice person. She did charity work. She did volunteer work. And so it seems particularly unjust when someone who has a character like that is killed. But it would also be unjust if it was someone who was good at times and bad at others, because it's a horrible way to be killed. So the fact she was just so innocent doesn't really matter. Why does he feel the need to mention she was just so innocent? Why does that come out? And potentially, she wasn't quite as white as she has been painted, that maybe there was something in her character, her background, her life, that maybe just wasn't picture perfect like the picture has been painted of her, and that he has some idea of some things that have gone on that may have made her a target for this attack. This is not definite. I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. This is just me picking up on some of his words. This is from a police press conference shortly after the murder from Sergio. I don't understand how someone could do this to her. She didn't deserve to pass away like this. How someone could be so monstrous to commit an act like this, I just really can't understand. I had to trade her 5th anniversary for a funeral. I think we can see it all there. I don't understand how someone could be so monstrous. I really can't understand. Again, it's a similar thing from Sergio, and these are all taken from different times and different TV programs. This is a press conference, but naturally coming out in his words is this: things don't make sense. And if you look at it, he's not so much fixed on finding out who did it. He's fixed on finding out the reason why, understanding what's going on. And I think that comes through loud and clear in his words. We mentioned he downplayed the crime to an act earlier, but he has called it monstrous here. So that's something that maybe balances that out a bit. Another police press conference from 3 years after the murder. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sergio Barraza, Lizzie's husband. 3 years ago today was the hardest day of my life. I had to be at the hospital and see my wife no longer be able to be with me. I was told that she wasn't going to make it, and all I could do was cry in agony. And why someone who would do this? I don't know what to do, or I didn't know what to do. All I could do was hurt. Unfortunately, today we're still trying to figure out why someone would do this. And so we seek the help of the public, still raising this reward up with Crime Stoppers to help get help from somebody out there who knows something, who can still benefit from this money. It's just still really hard to know that this is still happening. And I just hope this helps, and I hope someone steps up, because we need somebody to do the right thing. We need justice for Liz, and we hope to get that this year. Thank you all for being here. I'm not going to say too much about this at all, apart from look again at the repetition. Why would someone do this? I don't know what's going on. Trying to figure out, somebody out there knows something. Why is this still happening? I get a massive sense from someone who just does not know what happened at all. I found a really interesting article researching this on a website. I'll link to it in the description. And inside that is an email from Sergio to the author of the article. And I thought this would be interesting to look at because of the subject. Hey, Alex, I read your message and looks like a good idea, but let me speak to Bob about it. We're both taking a united approach to this and want to make sure we are on the same page before doing something regarding the case. I'll break this bit down here. Bob is Lizzie's dad, and you can see that he's used we a couple of times on this, so he definitely has a good bond with Bob. But I think actually, as much as he says it's a united approach, I think Bob might be the driving force here. That is basically him saying, I need to check in with Bob before I do anything. Next. Also, I appreciate you taking up for my wife, Amber. I'm not sure if that's meant to be talking up or if taking up is a phrase he's used, but it's being supportive. So also, I appreciate you taking up for my wife, Amber, on how people are accusing her. We're both very hurt and sad that people think this about us. I still care deeply for Liz, and Amber knows this and respects it too. Amber and I met random online in mid-2020, so I have no idea how people are making these connections, but it's out of our control. We both just want this case solved and justice for Liz. Once again, thank you for your kindness. It's much appreciated. So let's look at this bit in the middle, which is quite interesting. I believe it all. I don't think there's anything in there that is deceptive, but it tells us a little bit about him. I still care deeply for Liz, and Amber knows this and respects it too. So I believe he does. Interestingly, in order of importance, Amber knows it and then respects it. He says knows first and then respects. Potentially, there's a little bit of tension there about this, but only a little bit. There's not a lot shining through. And then I'm looking at Amber and I met random online in mid-2020. How did they meet and when did they meet? It's very vague. What is random online? You know, that's not how you meet someone. You know, you may mention a dating app that you used or a chat room you were in or something like that, but he just says random online. And in mid-2020, what does that really mean? And this is him doing image management around his new relationship, not around the murder of his not ex-wife, sorry, his first wife. Because lots of people are saying that he got married too soon, much sooner than they would have. Therefore, is he guilty of the murder, or is Amber guilty of the murder? Did they want to get Liz out of the way so they could get married? And I don't believe that's the case, just looking at Sergio's words that I've used. But he is being vague about when and how he met Amber, potentially to protect him and to protect her from that. So it's very vague as to how that happened. And what's really interesting about this is he then says, so I have no idea how people are making these connections. And no idea. It comes up time and time again when people are being deceptive. There's very few things that happen in life that we have no idea about. We may have some guesses, some thoughts. We may not be sure. They may only be like feelings or whatever, but we have ideas about it. So when we say no idea, it tends to be a little bit deceptive. It means kind of know why, but I really don't want to articulate it in a lot of cases. And you'll notice he says no idea here, which I think is deceptive. I think he does have ideas. He probably does know what people are saying about him, which is why he's been vague about how they met and when they met. But interestingly, when we looked at all the words around the murder and the events of the murder, no idea never came out in Sergio's words once. He was all, I don't know, this doesn't make sense. So I find that adds more to my sense that he's being honest and truthful when he's talking about the murder, and he says he doesn't know and it doesn't make sense. And finally, from the same article, this is a text from Sergio. I always thought the killer arriving on the same day as the garage sale was a coincidence. So few people knew about it. Sorry, I should have said that Liz was setting up a garage sale on her drive when she was shot. It didn't make sense how the killer would know it was that day. I barely knew last minute that she was doing it on Friday. And once again, Sergio seems to be a guy that drifts through life not knowing very much. He didn't know his wife was doing this garage sale on the drive. But once again, he's talking about thoughts, and there's nothing definite that he has to say that even leaks out in terms of what's going on. And twice he talks about a killer. That is not minimizing what happened. So there's some words from all sorts of various places across 3 years from Sergio. So what are the conclusions? Well, remember those markers of guilt? Didn't spot any alibi building. Didn't spot any invoking God. Didn't see him speaking ill of the deceased. No conflicting facts. No storytelling. Didn't see him explaining his thinking about his actions. Didn't see any image management when he's talking about the murder. I did see it when he was talking about Amber, but I think that was to protect him and to protect her. Definitely he hopes the perpetrators will be found, so there was no lack of that. Minimization of the crime, I did see that, but I did see it not happening as well when he talks about things like the killer and the horrendous acts. But as I said at the beginning, I'm not looking for one of these things, and I've only got a maybe for one of these things. I'm looking for lots of these things or one of these things repeated quite a lot, and I didn't see that in Sergio's words at all. What did he repeat? He repeated over and over again. He doesn't know. It doesn't make any sense to him. It's not even he wants to know who did it. He wants to know why it happened. And absolutely, looking at his words, do I think he's hiding knowledge of the crime? Maybe a little bit around something of a suspicion he has of who did it or why it happened. But guilty knowledge, was he involved in it? Nothing at all in his words suggests that whatsoever. If you like that, on neveratruerword.com, you can find more articles on crime and the words that people choose to use. The Linktree address that's on your screen and in the description is where you can find me on the socials. And what words should we look at next? Drop them in the comments down below or get in touch on social media and suggest some as well. And we'll see you for another video sometime soon on Never a Truer Word.